Welcome to In Confidence, where what we share in confidence helps us grow in confidence. So much of the time, people come to me and say, I think my boss hates me, or I wonder if I'm a good boss, or what does it mean to be a good boss? Well, today's guest is going to help us decode what it means to be a boss. And one of the things that our guest today talks about is there are no good bosses or bad bosses, just well-intentioned people that have pressure and power as part of the equation. Today's guest is Sabina Nawaz, a best-selling author. Her book is You're the Boss, Become the Manager You Want to Be and Others Need. Amazing. USA Today bestseller, has hit all the charts. Unbelievable book that came out earlier this year. She's also an executive coach and formerly a senior executive at Microsoft, working directly for Steve Ballmer and Bill Gates, helping create the leadership and development and talent programs for over 90,000 employees. I'm so lucky that Sabina joined us today because I learned, by the way, how I can become a better leader with specific things. What are the mistakes bosses make? There are 16 tools. We're not going to go through all 16 today, but 16 tools that she recommends on your path to improving your leadership skills. And it's just such an informative conversation. I personally think that it was a coaching session for me, and there are a number of things that I'm going to put into practice right away. So join me in our conversation with Sabina Nawaz. Let's listen in. Sabina, welcome to In Confidence.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm super excited for this conversation.
And this is a full circle moment because we met each other last year and we were talking about your book, which came out in March, You're the Boss, and is a national bestseller. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I cannot wait to dig into all of the insights and learnings that you've already gifted to so many people. And now we get to talk about your amazing book and your career. Our signature gravitas question is, what's something you're proud of from the past 12 months of your life?
Unquestionably, having run and completed my first marathon, Lisa.
Okay, I would have thought it was your best-selling book. It's a marathon?
Yes, of course, the writing a book and promoting it is more than one marathon. It's multiple marathons. But this marathon was something I have been working toward with a technique called micro habits, which I write about in You're the Boss. And I had never, ever, ever identified as an athlete or somebody remotely doing something as physically demanding as a marathon. And I am hooked.
Okay, well, at age 45, I have run a marathon off of my list. And now you've convinced me that I could have put it back on the list.
Absolutely. If I can do it, Lisa, anyone can do it.
And what's the marathon? So maybe I put that specific marathon on my to-do list.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful marathon because here's a secret. It's a gentle downhill slope. It's an old railway track called the light at the end of the tunnel. And you start the marathon in 2 miles of a pitch dark tunnel with a headlamp. But it's in a forest, so it's cooler. It's a beautiful trail.
Okay, I want a downhill marathon. If I'm going to choose a marathon, it's definitely a downhill one.
Right.
For those of our audience who don't know you, can you tell us who you are and how you make a difference in the world?
Well, my traditional bio, I'm an executive coach. I work with CEOs and C-suite executives around the globe in Fortune 500 companies, universities, you name it. And I was formerly an engineer at Microsoft and then switched careers into leadership development and succession planning at Microsoft, working with Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer and the executives of the company. The actual description of me would be that I'm a contrarian minimalist, that I look at things from a counterintuitive perspective. That's just how I'm wired. And I encourage people to do as little as possible to make the biggest shifts and differences in their leadership. I also am paid to raise people's heart rates. Leadership is not rocket science. It is about your heart pounding and taking courageous action despite of it.
Okay, that is incredible. I mean, yes, I am always in awe of people's backgrounds because I think at one point in your book you said you were in charge of people development for 90,000 people. I mean, that was mind blowing. But I even more love this idea of you're a contrarian minimalist who helps people raise their heart rates and do courageous things. That's incredible. Well, let's get into it because as I was getting ready for this interview, there were so many things that I was like, I want to make sure I hit that. I want to make sure I hit that. And we always say your life story is your leadership story. So can we go back to the very personal moment that you share in the intro to your book around when you realized the traditional leadership playbook wasn't built for everyone? Because I don't want to tell your story for you, but I was very moved by how you talked about being this incredible coach at the start of your career. I think you described it as being brass knuckles with velvet gloves, and that was me too. And then getting hit with this moment where you turned into someone you didn't want to be. Can you describe that whole journey?
Yeah. So for the first probably 10, 11 years of my career, people described me as one of the best managers they'd had. I coached them, I cared about them. Those were great years, Lisa. And then everything changed the first day I'm coming back from parental leave. I'm running the management development group of the company at that point, putting on lipstick for the first time in 5 months. My assistant Lori calls me frantic. Where are you? Steve expects you in 30 minutes. This would be Steve Ballmer, the CEO of Microsoft. I hit warp speed on my way to the company's executive boardroom while Lori reads out the memo I'm supposed to be preparing for this meeting. And that set the pace and tone for my return to work. No sleep, no peace, no patience, infant at home. You know the picture. And so I overnight morphed from being caring and nurturing to snippy and short. Still 5'3" short, but now also short-tempered. Rushing to meet deadlines, I didn't have time, or told myself, didn't have time to give people detailed instructions, let alone repeat them. I started to micromanage because I was worried that my team or I would look stupid and incompetent to high-level executives. When someone came to my office, I would put all 10 fingers on the keyboard and look over my shoulder, indicating, I'm super busy, you're less important than me, spit it out and move on. Until my colleague Joe stops by. And here I am. Yes, Joe. And I take a look at Joe and I realize he's about to give me some bad news. My shoulders start to tighten and Joe says, Zach is crying in his office because of what you said. Yeah. And so now, even though my hands are no longer on the keyboard, I can no longer make eye contact with Joe because I feel ashamed. My whole body feels hot with shame. And I think to myself, how did I get here? How did I get from being caring, nurturing, compassionate, best boss ever, to now the boss from hell, who people apparently fear and really don't like? And this is what led me to a couple of realizations and to write this book. One is that it is not power, but pressure that corrupts our actions, where we start to act the way I had been acting. Power then becomes that great divider and isolates us from the effect that we're having on people, and worse, the harm we're doing. And the second is most people don't wake up in the morning going, I know, I'm going to act out under pressure. I'm going to be the boss from hell. I'm going to make people's lives miserable. We all wake up with good intent, at least the majority of us. And here we are not knowing the impact we are having on others.
Okay, that is such a deeply personal moment. And when I read the intro to your book, I wrote that down, what you just said. I said, no one wakes up saying, I'm going to be a bad boss today. Yeah. It's that the pressure corrupts your options and the power divides you. Yes. And that was a mind-blowing insight. You are the contrarian minimalist, by the way, by saying that. But you know what I love is you didn't make me feel bad as I was reading it, because you said, look, I'm going to give you a permission slip that when you walk into being the boss, it's hard. It is
Yes.
not easy, right?
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about the fact that like we shouldn't beat ourselves up about this because it's going to be hard?
It's going to be hard, and it's not personal. It's not personal. It is a choice you can make. And that choice is not about luck, it's not about title. It's a choice you can make to show up mindfully to manage pressure and power. Because look, the other side of it is that when pressure and power are also good. Diamonds get formed from coal under pressure, right? Pressure makes you realize the resilience, the creativity, the brilliance that you never really thought you had. So it's an invitation to grow. It doesn't have to define you, it can refine you. And power, who wouldn't like the autonomy, the control, the ability to bring forth their own vision into the world, maybe even a larger seat on the airplane sometimes. But that when they're not minded intentionally, they turn our good intentions into destructive habits. You know, for me, it didn't just squeeze out my time, it squeezed out my humanity. So as human beings, yes, give your permission to be human. Give yourself permission to be flawed, to be messy, and give yourself permission to step up and open your eyes, to wake up and realize this is a huge opportunity that you can manage and makes all the difference between worst boss ever to boss from hell. They both reside within us. Which one
I
will
love
we
that.
activate?
So we
Yeah.
can make the choice to go from boss from hell to best boss ever. And part of that is understanding the relationship we have between pressure, power, and then what we bring to the table, the choices we can make, the agency we have.
Exactly.
So one of my favorite parts of your book, and I want you to walk us through it, is you highlight 4 common myths and mistakes that bosses make. And I love these 4. I actually jotted it out in my personal notebook, and I said, I got to make myself accountable. Can you walk us through the 4 mistakes?
Yeah. There are no good or bad bosses. There might be some 1 or 2 exceptions. You know, a lot of people, when I talk to them, go, oh no, you haven't met my boss from hell. And I said, yes. And think about what is their intent? What are the pressures they are under? So these all reside within us. There's no absolute good or bad boss, just like for the most part, there is no absolute good or bad human. These reside within all of us. The second piece, and I know this is a topic that's really important to you, so I don't even know if we need to go to all 4 or if we're going to rest on this one, Lisa, and dig into it further, which is that authenticity is not singular. Authenticity is not singular. What does that mean? Think about all the roles that you perform in your job. Okay, you're an author, you run a business, you're a podcast host, you're a child to somebody. So now, here's the thing. Are you exactly the same authentically in all of those settings? Exactly a clone of yourself? No. How you might show up, how you might even dress going for a dog walk might be very different than how you're dressing showing up for this podcast. Which one is the authentic you? All of them. So authenticity is not singular. Here's the other problem. Sometimes we use authenticity as an excuse to not grow, to not shift and change. Because if we were truly authentic, wouldn't we still be our authentic 5-year-old lying down on the floor of the grocery store having a hissy fit because my parent didn't give me a popsicle? So authenticity is important. I think what's more important are the values underlying it. That's what we act from, and being open to shifting and becoming a new authentic self. All those old pictures we see of ourselves or old recordings we see of ourselves where we cringe, those were still our authentic selves, but we've shed those. We've long moved past those.
Well, I'm curious because there's such a focus, especially as I think about millennials, Gen Zers in the workplace, on I want you to be authentic, I want you to be genuine, I want you to bring your whole self to work. And is that wrong? Is that wrong that there's been such a focus on realness and your whole self?
I think it's a both and. And it's a both and where it's neither all of one or all of the other, which is you bring your real self, you honor yourself, you honor your values and what you stand for, and you match it to the role or the situation at hand. How I bring my real self to a classroom when I'm teaching a leadership session for Fortune 500 executives is different from how I bring my real self when I'm letting loose in a Bali X dance session. So it is bringing that in and being situationally aware. So bringing your self-awareness, your emotional intelligence, along with situational intelligence.
I love that because that's a really deeper push on this idea of authenticity, because what you're saying is you have a set of values, things that are important to you that really at the core of you, it may align your values, which ones align with the workplace, with your personal life. That's where that connection is made. Not that because I think there's been also a backlash, right? Like I want you to be an authentic person, but then the scorecard at this corporate environment will punish you for some elements of your authenticity. What I hear you saying is good leaders, to be great bosses, make it about the values, not necessarily about are you authentic or not.
Yes. And the values don't remain constant, they will shift. They also have a hierarchy that changes in the moment. So what are some of your underlying values? And when push comes to shove, which one will you prioritize when you have to choose? It's easy to say, oh, I have this whole garden variety of values. It's another thing when you have to make a choice. For example, if let's say honesty is a huge value of yours and caring for your children is a huge value of yours, and I'm making this situation up and making it extra dramatic, but let's say that your child is facing a significant health issue. You don't have the financial means to provide the one medicine that child needs. Is honesty going to go out the window as you try to figure out how to break into that pharmacy and get that medicine for your child? Yeah, probably. So even your values are not absolute. You have to make some choices at times.
So I'm going to take away the word good bosses because I like your thing of like, let's not call it, as you think about the leaders who succeed, I know I got to say, I was going to be like, what's a good boss do? So as the leaders that you see and want us to emulate, what do they do when there are those questions of values?
The first thing is to be transparent and to expose the challenge that you have. I'm struggling. I have this value, and it seems like we have to make a choice right now. It is hard to proceed with both of these at this moment. But here's the purpose we're going toward. So bring in your strategy to be working in concert with the values. So be transparent and then guide towards that purpose or strategy. Because if you have that vision, then people understand why you're setting aside that particular value for the moment. Sometimes it's an existential or survival issue.
I love this. I know there's a chapter of your book called Superhero Syndrome. We call it Superhero Facade. That, first of all, superheroes are mythical.
Yes.
And that the most confident people in the world are the ones who can say, here's what's going well, here's where I need help, because I need fingerprints on your journey. We actually had a moment where my team was talking about a conflict in our values. And I said, I don't know where I stand on this one. Can I just tell you how I'm feeling about this and why it's so hard for me? And I know you have a different view of this. And we got to a good place, but I was really open about it. I was like, this is a conflict in my values and I'm not quite sure what to do. Can we talk it out?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Gold star for Lisa today. But I love this idea that you get to superhero syndrome is not an answer. The third one I want to talk about is I love this idea of but is not a justification. Can you tell me what that means? Because I read it and I was like, that makes so much sense. I have done that. And so I need to not do yeah, but. Can you talk about that one?
Well, so remember I talked about how power isolates us. It creates this gap, this power gap. And it's really hard to see things clearly across this distance that power creates the minute you walk into the room. I assume most people, at least when managers are at their most effective, they want to know the truth. Which, guess what? The minute someone's promoted to manager, you've stopped hearing the truth in its entirety. So if you want to know the truth, you have to receive it in a way that encourages people to give you more truth. If you keep going, yeah, but you have no idea the pressures I am under. Yeah, but it's because of this value, not that value. Yes, those might all be true. And that yeah, but is not only shutting down other people, it's preventing your ears from working. It's because you've convinced yourself in your mind. And now all you do is see what's called confirmation bias, that you only see what you want to see, as opposed to what is actually going on. The idea as you manage is to broaden your lens. Nobody has eminent domain on answers in the world that we find ourselves in. We want more people, just like you were talking about the facade of the superhero. Lisa, you get a third gold star because you went to your team and you also said, in addition to being transparent, that I don't know what to do. Let's talk this out. Let's talk this through this. So imagine talking through something, you've made that invitation, and now every idea that comes up, you go, yeah, but. That actually does more damage than not inviting them into the conversation in the first place.
I had this is why your book is so powerful. I had this very self-aware moment. I would say it's about 10 years ago where someone said, Lisa, you're a steamroller, right? You have such a force of personality that everyone feels a little bit challenged and pushing back on you. And so one of the taglines I came up with, and I think it's in the vein of this, common mistake, is I will say to people, hey, that's not a statement, that's a question. Like I want to share with you what I'm thinking, but it's not a statement on what we should do. It's a open invitation. It's a question on if I'm right. I want you to tell me I'm wrong, and that I think turned a lot of folks' points of view on me, because I am like, hey, I think this is what we should do. And when you're the boss, when you're the owner of the company, they're like, okay, Lisa says what we should do. Even though I disagree with her, she says we're going here. And so I started changing it to, hey, this is not a statement. It's what I'm feeling right now about where we should take this. It's also an open invitation for you to make it better, just to be very clear with you. So this is why this one particular common boss mistake really hit home for me.
Yes, and did you notice a shift in would people then disagree with you or tell you if an idea was a bad idea or modify it for you?
All the time.
Wonderful.
And then
Wonderful.
if I always say, you always have the permission to tell me because you have more expertise, or especially younger people on my team are much more digitally native. Like, okay, if that's what you think we should do, like I did not grow up with a phone in my hand. Let's do that.
Right.
And every once in a while they'll know though, when I'll say, yeah, I get it, I still think this is the way we should go. Like, I'm really happy that I heard where you're coming from, so I know the risks and how this might not work, but let's try it anyways, the way I conceived it.
Right? Because you are authentically, you have a point of view, you want to share that, and at the same time, you are situationally now more aware to say, let me pose this also as a question. So that's not giving up your authentic point of view and matching it to the situation so others feel comfortable to chime in.
Okay, this is just a lot of mistakes. I've made every one of these mistakes, Sabina. So that's why every one of them hits home. Your fourth one is business isn't personal. Can you talk about that one?
Yeah, business is deeply, deeply personal. We talk a lot about wanting to motivate, inspire, engage our workforce. And then we say, this is business, it's not personal. Those two don't sit next to each other. We spend more than half our lives, of our waking hours, at work. And wouldn't you want that to mean something to you personally? Wouldn't you want that to really shake you to your core if things are struggling? or excite you beyond belief if things are going well, business is absolutely personal. This is particularly the case with managers. The trap they fall into is when there is bad news or there's change or there's uncertainty. They, with the best of intentions, start by trying to reassure people. This happened, I shared the example in the book with somebody who wanted to tell people there's no cause for worry. When you start with that, half the people are going, well, I wasn't that worried, but maybe I should be now. And those who are worried, it actually takes away, it denies their authentic experience. It denies them the feeling of worry, anger, whatever it is that they might be going through. And that's why we have the term toxic positivity. So taking a moment and acknowledging where people are will allow you to actually move faster to a place where everybody's with you.
I love that, because I always tell people, don't say I need some time with you. Just say everything is okay, and this is what the conversation's about. Because otherwise, my anxiety levels go up. Or don't worry about, hey, this is a hard thing, and we will work through it like we've always done. So I love that you say this is personal. So let's sit inside how people will react to tough news or a situation you've got to work through. Now, I always say you write the book you most need to read yourself, and I'm going to go back to, let me take these 4 mistakes. Like, I've gotten the call saying Steve wants you in the meeting, and then Joe's come into my office to give me the feedback. And I sit down and I look at these 4 mistakes and I say, yeah, all 4 are true, right? Like, I'm feeling all 4 of these things, and I'm feeling the pressure, and I'm feeling the power divide. Mm-hmm. What's the first step then to taking on the journey to changing the way in which I lead? What are some of the specific tips and tools that you've put together as a roadmap for people?
The first step, Lisa, is to shut up. And what I mean by that, and I often tell my clients this, is to exercise your shut up muscle. In your position, everybody is looking to you for answers. Nobody wants to speak first, because you're going to give them that wisdom from up on high in the mountain. They want to see where the winds are blowing. When you speak first, it's rare that others will have ideas, especially if those ideas contradict or go in a different direction. So what if you're, say, the third person to speak? You want to set guardrails for the meeting and the conversation. This is what we're trying to go for. These are some non-negotiables. But then let the ideas flow before you chime in. This is easy and incredibly hard because of all the pressures on you for people wanting the answers from you. Because you know what? When you overfunction, when you overspeak, it's also convenient for others. Much as they like to grouse about the boss who speaks a lot, it keeps them all off the hook. If something messes up, it was the boss's bad idea, not mine. So the first thing you can do to reduce that power gap is just to shut up. And guess what? It will also reduce the pressure on you, because it's not all now on your shoulders.
Okay, I'm using that one. I'm going to, team that's listening on the other side of the screen here, I'm going to shut up more. I love that one. Okay. What else? And this is my own personal coaching session, Sabina. Please help me become a better leader. I'm going to shut up more. Got it. I'm writing that one down.
Well, one idea I picked up from what you were saying before about this is not a statement, it's a question when you do have a point of view. And I certainly get the sense you have lots of points of view and strong points of view, is to use numbers. Here's what I mean by that. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm excited about this at a level 5. So this is not sacred to me. I want you to punch holes in this. Or on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm concerned about this at a level 2. The only reason, by the way, most level 2s, you don't even bring it up, you shut up. But the only reason I'm bringing it up is in case this has the potential to get to a level 9. Or on a scale of 1 to 10, this is an 11. Because power is also like a broken volume knob. Everything you say gets amplified. and it sounds more dire, more personal, more threatening, more urgent than we ever dreamed possible. So using numbers gives them a sense of where you are on a continuum, and not ruining their weekends as a result of it, because they're like, oh, the boss said so, now I've got to cancel all my plans and spend all weekend working on this.
I wish I had more bosses do that. Is it okay for the person who you're leading to ask that question? Like, Sabina, on a scale of 1 to 10, how upset are you about this? Like, can I ask the question back to you without repercussions?
Yes, of course you need to know who your boss is and how they respond to things like this, but you could try it in a very small experimental manner first, by first asking a question before the question, which is, hey, Lisa, I'm trying to make sure I'm really clear on how important this is to you. Is it okay if I ask you a question about that? Lisa, of course, is going to say, yes, of course, ask me that question. Well, if you were to put a number on this on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm curious where it would fall, right? So you ask the question, ask for permission, and then land the number with them. And then see how they respond.
Yeah. Can I use this with my boyfriend? I might use this with my boyfriend too. On a scale of 1 to 10, how mad are you about this with me? I might use this on my boyfriend. Not that I'm leading him, but that feels like a good way to go just in life. Like, use the numbers to scale where you are. Because it's hard to be in someone's head. It's hard for me to see inside your head. So I like your push to let's try to really understand what's going on in the head. Yes. I like that.
It's really much clearer in terms of communicating with anybody.
What are some other tips? Because these I'm already written down. I've written down both of those. Those are ones that I'm going to implement today, not even wait till tomorrow. What are some other ones that you would share?
Well, Lisa, so this one plays right off of your comment right now of I'm going to implement right away and not till tomorrow. I get the sense you act on things and you act on them fast. And that's great most of the time. When under tremendous pressure, do nothing. Do nothing. See, remember I told you I'm a counterintuitive minimalist? There's a practice.
That's
Yes.
do nothing. I mean, I don't know how to do nothing.
Right.
You have been talking to my boyfriend. I can tell.
Well, Lisa, let me ask you this. When you are under pressure, what do you tend to do?
You know, when I talk about situational awareness, when you talk about situational awareness, I hope at 45 I've done enough reflection. If it's something like this situation is on fire, I do lean in. I do, and I'm sure that's what you're going to talk to me about. But if it's something that's really hard, I've now gotten to a place where I'm like, I got to sit on it overnight. I've got to let it sit there because something doesn't feel right. I do actually say do nothing, and I'll tell everyone pencils down. Like, we don't have the answer yet, so let's just all take a beat because everyone's too stressed about it. So it is situational, but my initial inclination is just get in there, roll up our sleeves, we'll fight through it, we'll figure it out.
Yes. Most often that's what many people do. Create a longer to-do list, write down things on the to-do list and that have already been done to scratch it off to get the sense of productivity.
Yes.
And hammer down the emails, cancel the date night with the boyfriend because I'm too busy. And what does that do? It really doesn't do much to reduce that pressure. Those items continue to multiply overnight and you have the same to-do list the next day. What you really need to do is unplug and step away from it. And this is a practice called blank space. The most aspirational part of it is to do it, and many of my clients do this, 2 hours a week, back to back, where you do nothing. So that means you're not online, you don't have devices with you, you don't read, you don't talk to anyone else. You are by yourself doing nothing. Because science shows that our biggest insights come when? In the shower, when we're exercising, when we're commuting, when we allow some space and some silence. Your point about sitting with it, the truth suddenly emerges. So many times the answers lie within us, but we're beating ourselves up under pressure going, I don't know what to do, so let me run from pillar to post with my hair on fire. and it does nothing for us. So doing nothing does something for us in those moments, because we realize, one, we're smarter than we thought we were. The answers are hiding in plain sight. We just needed to dampen the noise so that the signal could come through. It puts things in perspective. For my clients who have done this, they have had life-changing impact. One client, for example, who had been doing a particular job for 20 years, was incredibly successful in the C-suite of a major corporation, ended up changing her career completely in a very different field, because she realized the time was right for her to make the shift. That wouldn't have happened if she was constantly just going, doing. So when under pressure, do nothing.
Oh, I really love these 3 tips. Shut up, use the numbers on a scale of 1 to 10, and do nothing. I will say, I'll call it the Taylor Swift rule, because she has that song Blank Space. So we'll call the third one the Taylor Swift rule. I will just say, like, your book is filled with insights like this, all things incredibly actionable, even if the action is to do nothing. I am very inspired by everything you have to say on how we can become better leaders. Now, what is the biggest warning sign? What is the biggest wake-up call that you've seen amongst those that you've worked with in terms of, I need to do things differently?
It's when they receive honest feedback, which they usually don't. I conduct a process called interview-based 360s, which is essentially interviewing about a dozen people in all around this executive to get a sense of what it's like to work with this person. And because I'm from the outside, because I do this through interviews and I'm trained to do that in a particular way, and I present the information in a particular fashion, just about every single one of my clients is not just surprised, but shocked. Shocked at, when I give them the initial themes, they're like, oh yeah, thank you, I've heard this before. And I say, wait till you read the report. And then they read 40, 50 pages of verbatim comments about how they're coming across. And they go, oh, it's like the very moment I had when Joe came to my office and said Zach was crying because I'd said something. Because I cannot imagine being that person, and yet there I was. It's a huge wake-up call. This was the case with one of my clients who was really well-meaning, most of them are, but thought was this what I would call an innocent saboteur. He was deliberately doing things that ended up sabotaging his team and their results. So he would use sarcasm because he thought that was a way to motivate people. He would use humor that was not in the best taste because he thought that was a way to connect with people. Once he got the feedback that this was doing the opposite, he had, again, the answers were in him. He knew how to make the shift. He just didn't know that the shift was needed. For those who don't have the luxury of a coach and getting a rigorous interview-based 360 process, redesign how you ask for feedback, because the quality of feedback you receive is directly proportional to the quality of questions you ask. Here's a couple of ways you can do that. Instead of saying, how did I do? Because let's face it, what are people going to tell the boss? Yes, boss, you did great, even though they're starting a secret group chat about how sucky you were. So instead, make the question minimalistic and simple and specific. So what's one thing that worked well? What's one thing, if I shifted, did more of or less of, it would make it go even better? And if you're not getting substantive feedback there, if you're still getting crickets instead, make it about a third person. If my biggest fan was in the room, what would they say? If my biggest critic was in the room, what would they say? So then it helps that person ease into giving you more quality feedback. So you don't get so shaken up when a coach comes and does a more extensive process for you. It becomes part of a daily habit.
And Sabina, we sing from the same songbook. I am so glad we are new friends, but old souls. I know we are connected. In Chinese culture, we call it 缘分, like you have destiny, you have connection with someone. In a past life, we might have been sisters. I am obsessed with this idea of the power of one thing, because people are bad at asking for, giving, and receiving feedback. But if you're like, hey, what's one thing I could have done better? Everyone can give you one thing, right? That's so powerful. when I was in 2005, so 20 years ago, I was a new project manager, and at McKinsey, they had given me my first 360, and it was a post-engagement survey, and it was after a course of a year. And it said that only 2 out of 20 people would want to work with me again. Now, can you imagine? I was 28 years old, and it was the first time anyone had done a 360 on me. I was devastated. I will tell you, I went through a valley where I sat with that. And first of all, I had disbelief. I was like, I'm the highest performing engagement manager in my class. Like, how is this possible? Are they wrong? I can't, I went to retribution and revenge. Those 18 people, I can figure out who they are. I went to some very dark places. And if you get, whether it's you performing it or you do get some very honest feedback, what do you suggest people do when they get that incredibly negative feedback?
I remember reading about this in your book, Lisa, and it was such a powerful and again deeply personal story. You're right. We tend to write in similar fashions as well. When you get that really negative feedback, recognize that your reactions are not special. You are not special. Your reactions are deeply human reactions. And isn't it wonderful that you're horrified by that feedback? Because if you're horrified by that feedback, it means you care. It means your intentions are in the right place. If you were to just shrug it off, do I really want to work with you? That's when I don't want to work with you. If you were devastated, if you were shocked, if you really wanted to move and do something differently, then that's the right place to be. That's the person I want on my team. And again, I'll use my phrase, which I often tell my clients after delivering a 360, is do absolutely nothing for at least 2 weeks. People ask you, what did you find out from Sabina? You just say, it was a lot. I'm still processing it. Thank you very much for the feedback. I'll come back to you. Because anything that's going to come out of your mouth in those, especially in those first 2 weeks when the sting is so raw and sharp, is something you're going to regret later. Because as you said, Lisa, it's going to be about retribution, revenge, and the very thing you don't want if you want to know the truth. Because here's the thing. Everybody else is already saying these things about you. You're the last one to find out. So do nothing. Talk to your coach, write, journal, talk to your girlfriends, whatever else, but not in the workplace.
That's really good advice, Sabina, because I will tell you, when they gave me that number, I was like, those 18 people, I spent so much time with them. I spent 4 days a week on the road with them. How could they possibly say these things about me?
Right.
No one cares more about the success of this team. Like it was really, I did have a executive coach for 2 years, Glo Harris, who's amazing and still coaching. And it was a hard 2 years for me to go and revamp so much of the way I had been hardwired, right?
Yeah.
Hard charging, overachieving, hit the numbers. Okay. So, the warning sign is there when you can ask for the honest feedback, you can sit with it, you can process it, and then come to Sabina and read your book to figure out what to do about it. I get that. You talk in your book about hidden power dynamics. Okay, so I can buy into this approach, right? Which is be open and reflective about your style, figure out where the power has divided you from the people you're leading, where the pressure has corrupted how you want to behave. I can go through and think through okay, I'm going to shut up, I'm going to do all these things and be a better leader. But how do I do that if maybe there's some hidden power dynamics where the deck is stacked against me? Can you talk a little bit about that particular element of your book?
Hidden power dynamics as when you're managing up or managing down? When the deck is stacked against you.
Yes. I think it's really managing up. I'm a first-time boss, and now I've got to fix all this stuff. Are they going to give me a chance to do that, right? Are they, there's all these other things that I might not be seeing as I'm on a journey to becoming a better leader.
Yeah, there's the hidden power dynamics are the things that I call power gaps. These are the things that we fall into unintentionally when we become managers, when we become bosses. One of the most dangerous ones is where we make up stories about what the person in a position of power is thinking, specifically what they're thinking about us. So As a new boss, you're making up stories about what your boss is thinking about you. Oh gosh, I don't know how to do this. I wasn't trained to be a manager. I'm going to screw it up. All of that stuff. And so that creates this singular story that is not productive. And imagine this scenario. You walk into work, you see your boss, Jerry, standing by the elevator. Any weekend plans, Jerry? You ask with a smile. Nothing from Jerry. He sips his venti Americano with that stone face that we see on many an executive. So attempting to move the stone, you say, I'm going to see the new Marvel movie. Jerry squints at you, shrugs, gets into the elevator, and you think, he definitely heard me that time. What a jerk. Is this about the email I hadn't responded to? Now, the thing is, Jerry isn't judging you for your movie preferences. In fact, he quite liked the new Marvel movie. He's not even seething over that email. The reason Jerry wasn't responsive to your comments and engaging in chit chat is because he's not a morning person. He's not sentient until his second cup of coffee. But as employees on the lower end of the power gap, we constantly misinterpret body language. If you knew this about Jerry, you would correctly interpret his silence as grogginess, not as hostility. At least not hostility directed at you. Jerry could have been mad at the sun for rising. And you would have given Jerry space. But in today's world of work, especially in hybrid situations with global workforces, people working in all sorts of conditions and places, it's easy to not have that context, not have the time to understand. And so we make up a singular story about Jerry's stone face, and we compose a resignation letter on that short elevator ride up to our office. So this singular story is an insidious power gap that happens to us all the times. And to offset it, do something called multiple meanings, which is make up different interpretations about why this might be happening. I often tell people a cue that you're stuck in a singular story is that you feel the most righteous about it. Clearly, this is why Jerry is doing this. The more righteous you feel, the more you need to stop and not act until you have at least 3 different stories.
And how do I break through with Jerry? I love this example. How do I break through with Jerry to get a different story?
Right. So let's say you make up 3 stories. Okay, he's mad about the email I didn't respond to. He's a jerk. Let's make up more than 3 stories because our initial ones are all going to be about me and they're going to be negative, right? So mad about this. Finally, maybe I go, maybe he's not a morning person. Or maybe he's just dropped off his surly teenager and is stewing over that himself. Or maybe he's worried about the pressures he's under. He needs to make a big presentation to his boss. I would give Jerry space once I make up those multiple interpretations, because if he is under pressure, this is the last moment where he needs to engage in chit chat with me. Maybe in my next one-on-one, which I also say, if he isn't a morning person, if that is a possibility, I'm going to shift my one-on-one to 3 in the afternoon. And then I go, hey, Jerry, I noticed the other day I was chit-chatting with you in the elevator and you seem to be in a different space. And I'm curious, what was going on for you? Do you remember that interaction? And Jerry might say, because of course this actually happened in real life with a client of mine. And Jerry might say something like, oh, I don't remember that conversation at all, but what time was it? And you say, well, it was at 9 a.m. Oh, that's why. I don't have meetings with me before 11 a.m. I'm just not awake. Now that makes a huge difference to me, right? And they breathe a sigh of relief like you are, Lisa.
Okay, this just made me reflect on, Sabina, I do feel like I'm getting a personal coaching session with you, so thank you for letting us do it in front of our audience. This is, I think, a very relevant example for so many people, because I think we automatically go to the darkest place, like I've done something, versus creating that connection, right? Darkness cannot survive the light of connection, to someone to say, hey, you seemed out of it. Is it anything I did? Because I'm open to feedback. Or is it anything that was going on that I can be helpful with? Like, there's just so many ways that could have gone differently versus creating more and more of a divide. I spent 11 years in consulting. And there was a handful of senior partners who I thought hated me. That literally is the phrase I would use. Like, those people hate me. They were just so hard on me. I definitely had that Jerry conversation. There was one partner in particular. And when I started my company, a bunch of McKinsey partners invested in the company. And there were a few that I was surprised to have outreach from. Like, hey, I hear you're doing a small round. Like, if you need something, I could write a small check. And I remember at that point, I'd left the firm, right? They had no control over the future of my career. I said, I really thought you didn't like me. I'm like, what do you mean? I loved you. You were the hardest working. You were so innovative. You were so creative. Like, how could you think that? And I had made up a singular story of that person and what they thought of me. And shame on me, right? Because now I'm 25 years out from having started the firm. And I think to myself, wow, that person is a totally different person in my life now. And it's because I'd made up a story in my head of our relationship. That blows my mind. Yeah.
Exactly.
How do we, as I think about the push to make us all better leaders, right? And I love that that's the push that you're making for all of us. If there was kind of one magic wand, if you were sort of like, I get to just wave a magic wand over the entire corporate America and make this one big sweeping change for everyone, what's that one thing you would change for everyone?
You don't ask easy questions, do you, Lisa?
Oh, Sabina, because you're one of the guests that I know has an answer, because I'm curious.
I'm not sure there's a magic wand, because if there was, I'd be sitting on a beach sipping umbrella drinks all day with a personal masseuse. And the thing that I would encourage everyone to think about goes back to Newtonian physics, which is that every action has a reaction. Do you know what the reaction is to your actions, especially when you're the boss?
Okay, that's good. So it would be awesome if AI gave us the chance to say, if I go ahead and do this, what's going to be the impact of my decisions or my actions? I love that. I don't think people think enough about that. I don't think they take enough time, and maybe that's why you're asking for us all to have that blank space time around the downward implications of anything I might do as a leader. I really like that.
Exactly.
Well, what else is going on in your life that we have to look forward to? Because first of all, everyone's got to go get this book. I have been devouring it. I told Sabina I didn't finish it yet, but this conversation has made me think I have to go finish it today. I have to actually. I'm a power reader. Everyone's got to get your book. You're the boss. Is there anything that you're looking forward to going forward?
So many things. One of them is to drastically improve my running time, and I've already signed up for a marathon a year out. My first marathon was to just prove to myself that I could do it, so I was very slow. And now my second one is going to be to do it in a decent amount of time. And I'm really looking forward to that.
That's wonderful. Well, maybe I'm not going to sign up on the podcast to join you on this journey, but I'm now going to at least consider it as part of things that I might spend my time on. I am so grateful for this time with you, Sabina. Thank you for coming on to In Confidence.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of In Confidence. I hope you're leaving this space stronger than when you entered it. If any of us have a Jerry in our life, let's start to make up some multiple stories, because that's certainly one big takeaway. The singular stories that we create in our head of how others see us or how we see others. I want us to all think about some of the specific tools and go get Sabina's book, because there are 16 tools. We only got to 4 of them today, because we all have a chance to improve who we are as leaders or interact with those who are leading us. If you love this episode, I hope you'll share it with someone who needed to hear it today. Subscribe so you never miss a moment of inspiration. And until next time, in the words of my 9-year-old self, I see you, I value you, and I believe in you. This is In Confidence.